would think you'd do it, right? I mean, God, hey, I'd be all over it. But not Naaman. He's a big dude. He's a big wig. He's got all kinds of money. He spends $4.5 million. He doesn't want to lower himself to go to Israel and wash himself in some river. He expects a different answer than that. And it says in verse 11, but Naaman went away angry and said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of his God and wave his hands over the spot and cure me of my leprosy. Are not Abana and Paphar, the rivers of Damascus, better than any of the waters in Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went off in a rage. Isn't that kind of the way it is? I mean, we watch these guys on TV, right? And instead of, them just walking up and saying, all right, Lord, would you please heal David here? I mean, it's like, woo! All right! Let me healed, in the name of Christ! We have to wave our arms and be like, woo! Yeah! To get anybody healed, right? I mean, isn't that? And so, I sometimes find myself caught up in this when people say, will you pray for me for healing? I'm a fairly demonstrative person, but when I'm praying for somebody with healing, it's not about me, right? It's about God. So I just walk up, Lord, would you heal him? But I think, man, surely I should have some kind of massive, push them over and the whole row fall down and something like that happen. And Naaman's thinking the same thing, right? He's like, surely this guy's going to come out and wave his arms and pull out his little Harry Potter wand and, go ooh and say abracadabra and I love peanut butter sandwiches and all those things. You guys remember Sesame Street, don't you? That was the magic words. All right. But he doesn't do that. He just simply, I want you to come to Israel, come to this land, and I want you to wash yourself in the Jordan. And Naaman gets mad about it. And so his servant went to him and said, in verse 13, Naaman's servant went to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you wash and be cleansed? So he went down and he dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. So Naaman actually says, okay, I'll do what God wants me to do. He goes down and washes himself. He dips himself in the Jordan 7 times, and he gets healed. Now, I love the fact that in Luke it says, and this is Luke 4:24 through 27, it says, I tell you the truth, you continue, no prophet is accepted in his hometown. I assure you that there were many widows in Israel in Elijah's time, when the sky was shut for 3.5 years, and there was a severe famine throughout the land. Yet Elijah was not sent to any of them, but to the widow Zarephath in the region of Sidon. And there were many in Israel with leprosy at the time of Elijah the prophet, yet none of them was cleansed, only Naaman the Syrian. So God uses this whole thing to kind of teach him a little bit of a lesson there. He's the only one healed in the time of Elijah. And the neat part is he ends up actually better off than he was before. It says his skin, in verse 14, it says, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Cool, huh? I mean, it wasn't just like he lost the leprosy, but I mean, he was smooth as a baby's behind, I guess. I don't know if you were going to do a commercial about it. Pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, that's a cool story. I mean, that's a little weird, right? Because it's not what we're thinking, should happen. Should be, sometimes we have an issue. We have these expectations of God, and we expect him to do it the way we want him to do it. We expect him to do it when we want him to do it, and we expect him to do it how we want him to do it, or we expect someone, to come and pray with us and to get really excited and maybe wave their arms and say the magic words or whatever it is, or learn the secret handshake from church or whatever it is that you're used to. And sometimes God says, I do things differently because I don't want it to be about the people I'm using. Sometimes we make it that way, don't we? We're like, man, if I was just the right person, and then, we say, man, if I just did this or if I did that, then God would do it. So, I'm going to ask the question again. Have you ever prayed for something and already decided exactly how God should do it? You ever get angry with God because he doesn't do things in the speed we want it done? Do you ever get an answer from God but then don't follow through on your part? Maybe today you're in need of answering prayer and you're wondering if God still answers prayer. And the thing is that, with life doesn't always bring us what we think we deserve. But I follow a God who wants our best. And he says in John 10:10, he says, I have come that you may have life, and that to the full. Now, I realize that in today's society, in today's ideas, life to the full means that my checking account is full. I have a BMW M5. I'm driving the Hummer H1, not the 2 or 3, sorry. I'm a little bit of a Hummer purist. I've got a Viper, I've got a Corvette, I've got whatever it is that I want. I've got the nice house. My family has 2.5 children. I'm not sure how that works. Anyway, all of those things that our country or that our world tells us we're supposed to have and we're supposed to be able to do, and we think that is life to the full. But God says sometimes, he says, you know what? I want you to have the best life possible. And for some people, for me, I guess, or other people, it may not be a big house, a big car, a nice checking account, whatever it is. I'm not saying any of those things are wrong, but I am saying that sometimes we get caught up in thinking that's what God's talking about, a full life. And I think that God, in fact, I had 2 guys in my cabin this week. They're kind of seniors in high school, or they just graduated. And the 2 guys were going off to Bible college, and they were talking about some things. And I said, here's what I want you to do. I said, before you decide that you're called to full-time ministry, I said, I want you to read through the prophets. I want you to read a book about what happened to each one of the prophets and what happened to each one of the disciples or the apostles. And then see if you really want to follow God. Because sometimes following God is not getting everything we want, but being everything he wants us to be. And sometimes he uses these tough situations in our life, whether they're health issues or financial issues or relationship issues. Sometimes he says, I'm using that to glorify me. And I can because I'm God. You know? I love Job. Job's got it all figured out. He says, who am I to tell you what to do? Don't we do that all the time? It's like, God, if you need to do this so I can have a full life. God, you need to do this so that this person can have a full life. You need to do this. And God's saying, what do you mean I have to? I'm God. I know what's best for you. Now, we don't understand half of it, do we? Because I don't understand when someone gets cancer or someone gets sick or someone has loses their job or whatever. And to me, I'm thinking, God, what are you doing? You're an idiot. I mean, maybe not quite that strong, but, every once in a while I say, God, you don't know what you're doing. And God says, yes, I do. Sorry about my voice. I have very little today. Been a long week at camp. But we just kind of expect all these things. So let me give you these 3 little things here, okay? If you want to do it right, if you want to do it like Naaman, if you want to do it differently than the world says, instead of just telling God what he has to do, the first one is listen, okay? We're really good at praying and telling God what to do. But God says, I want you to communicate with me. Talk to me, tell me what you need. I already know it. I want you to tell me. But I also want you to listen. We need sometimes to stop talking so much and start listening to God and see what it is that he really wants to do. Matthew 13:15 says, for this people's heart has become callous. They hardly hear with the ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn, and I would heal them. I love that scripture because he's quoting Jeremiah, but he's also quoting Isaiah. These same words are found in Isaiah, I believe it's Isaiah, Jeremiah, Luke, and in Acts. The same thing about, I wish that my people would listen to me, because if they would, I would tell them what I'm doing, or I would explain to them what's going on, and they may just understand and be healed. Sound good to me, right? Instead of talking all the time, sometimes I need to listen. And sometimes God not only talks back, but he says, I want you to act as well. He gives us a part to play. Maybe God is trying to tell us, I'll answer your prayer, but you've got a part to play. Stop wasting the finances I'm giving you. Stop destroying your body with unhealthy habits and eating. Work on the relationships I've given you, and then maybe I'll give you some new relationships with some new people. James 1:22 says, Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. If you read the rest of the passage, later on in the week, try to read through 25. It gives a great, it goes in and breaks that up even more. But I'm just going to stop with that part. Don't just merely listen when God says, here's what I want you to do. Here's the part that you have to play. But do what he says. That's the hard part, isn't it? I know with me, sometimes it's a whole lot easier to hear him say something. I tend to do the la, 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 la. I'm not listening. Had a guy who worked for me. I was assistant meat department manager in Fremont, Nebraska. And it's a big guy. He was a Huskers fan, and he would run around, Huskers, go! Jason Peters. That was a few years ago. Anyway, but he would literally do that when I would ask him to do something. And the guy's like 50 years old, and he would put his fingers in his ears, and he would yell, la, 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 la. I'm not listening. It's like, really, dude? You're 50 years old. I'm expecting that from, my son who wasn't born yet, but not from you, But he would do that, and we do that with God sometimes, don't we? We think if we talk loud enough, if we say the right things, if we just plain don't listen, then it's okay. And sometimes he's saying, I need you to do right with what I'm giving you now before I do anything else. 2 Chronicles 7:14. Oh, wait, no. That's a little later on. All right. So listen, act, and the third part of that is live. Naaman listened, finally, humbled himself and listened to God. He acted, he went and washed himself in the Jordan. And then he lived. He was restored. He was even better than he was before. His flesh or his skin became that of a young boy or of a child. And I think sometimes maybe we kind of mess up that last part too, because maybe today God is speaking to you saying, I want to heal you physically. Because I know there's a lot of people here who could use that. Or maybe you're in need of a touch financially. Maybe you need the ultimate healing, salvation, or a right relationship with God.